Melanin dominant humans, so-called black people, have been on the earth for almost 3 billion years. We will supply solid evidence in the conclusion. There is verifiable proof hidden from the masses, but it's clear. No one has been able to look at this and come up with what you hear in this video, as well as witness in this video. Happily, you will be able to connect the dots and craft your own independent conclusion. Then take the next step. To explore these liberating ideals, you can enroll in our running Bantu Foundation studies. Send us an email on john@marifado.com. But what is the biggest challenge melanin dominant people face today? How do we begin to solve it? We share the 7 threats, so-called problems. Number 1 problem faced by black people on the earth today. Can you solve it? Some would assume that this is it, but it's not. Wealth is number 1 on the list. Persistent widening gap between the races. According to the Federal Reserve, African Americans saw increases in their mean or average wealth. That is what you own minus what you owe between 2013 and 2016 here. But the difference between the mean wealth of white families and that of African Americans families also expanded the gap. This growth in the racial wealth gap is captured in an update on of the Urban Institute's 9 charts about wealth inequality in America. You can read this Federal Reserve report and see what is happening in America. Again, this book, The Financial Case, shows how the global financial system is making all other countries poorer. So, wealth disparity is not the major problem, at least for now. We know black folks are earning some income. We know that some countries all over the continent are so rich and wealthy. During slavery and colonial times, we know that most of the wealth did not accumulate to the black folks, but went to Europe. So, but today things have changed. So wealth is not our biggest problem as black people today. Education. This is another one. Is it education a problem? No. Almost everyone is getting the same education everywhere. Conventional wisdom proclaims a college education is the primary vehicle for economic mobility and the great equalizer when it comes to black-white disparity, or black Asian, or black Latino, or black other disparity. In reality, a college degree does little to undo the massive difference in wealth across the races. But we know at least we are getting educated. We are getting education. We can choose to study. We can go into entrepreneurship. All open. All avenues are open. But education is not the problem, right? Higher education, wealth differences cannot be explained by education, employment, or income. Economists estimate that by far the largest factors explaining these differences are gifts and inheritances from old generations. That is where the clue lies. When we come to the conclusion, remember this statement that economists at least were just about to pick it, but they didn't pick it because they did not include a certain factor in everything. Inheritance from older generations and the gifts makes a lot of differences. So, however, education is not the biggest problem. Let's proceed. 3. Health and death. What we know is that a lot of black people are getting sick and dying earlier other than other racial groups. There are many factors contributing to this increased morbidity as well as mortality among black people. It is undeniable, though, that one of those factors is the care that they receive from providers. Black people simply are not receiving the same quality of health care that white counterparts receive, and this second-rate health care is shortening their lives. There is proof. This book, Just Medicine, A Cure for Racial Inequality, the argument is that if people of color are sicker and are dying at younger ages than white people, this may be because physicians have a racial bias. Read this book for more insight and more information. You can get it from Amazon as well as many other sources, and we are indicating one of the most important websites to study this subject given here. It also deals with the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that should be used to provide legal and moral basis to hold liable those that are unconsciously discriminating black people in the United States. But when we look all over the earth, we know that their governments or our governments have not been able to maintain or improve health standards or institutions or policies. That many of the leaders fly overseas to get health if they need it. But we know that we can, at a very general level, we can manage our own personal health if we get good information on nutrition, exercises, personal care, and taking care of our own health. Therefore, health and death are not major problems. Spirituality and religious confusion, that again dominates, because a lot of black people, melanin dominant humans, so-called black people on earth, worship the Christian and Islamic God, read books and pray to the Islamic God as well as Christian God, forgetting and ignoring and not wanting to accept that these religions today enslaving, colonizing, dehumanizing, sodomizing, castrating, abuse, even today as we speak, today in Libya and many other countries. Therefore, this is not a major problem. Political failure. Under political failure, there are other issues, many other issues which we can go into, but institutionalized corruption. This is all over Africa, all over so-called melanin dominant countries. The police is 47% corrupt. So once it is like that all over, it means there is distraction, there is nothing. Religious leaders, NGOs, traditional leaders, local governments, judges, major state president, prime ministers, all of them are corrupt according to this Pew study that we are showing here. With that kind of corruption and that kind of government, political failure is definitely coming into play as a major or one of those candidates that we can pick at the end of this discussion. Also, tribalism in Africa and elsewhere, because European nations carved up Africa with no regard to traditional tribal boundaries. Africa still suffers from tribalism, but this again we want to say is not the major big problem. Racism. A survey was done and over 64% said racism is a major problem in our society. It implicates even the whole earth. Racism all over the earth. There is the study done by NBC News Survey Monkey Poll in 2018. It's quite clear. Racism against blacks in China. There they ran a cartoon and they ran an advert where a black spattered man confidently approaches a young Chinese woman, and this sparked a lot of problems. You can go in Shangist and find it, and also some are saying it was actually copied from Europe, which was Italy, where it was a century-old joke, a racist joke also. So proving that it's a global racism is a global phenomenon against black people all over, where you touch, where you go, wherever you live. It might not be overt and it's covert or structural, but it's there under many guises and forms. In India, the indigenous people who are Bantus, despite India's advancement, despite India's desire and government's work to eliminate it, the Dalits, our own brothers and sisters, black people, melanin dominant humans, always are given one of the most unspeakable jobs that you can ever desire. Despite lip service paid for decades to its eradication by the government of India, manual scavenging, a euphemism for collecting human waste, often with bare hands, remains the daily lot of tens of thousands of Dalits in India, 98% of them being women. Just imagine, using their bare hands to collect feces and to clean places using their bare hands. It's there in India today as we speak. To force people into this kind of work amounts to a crime against humanity, and yet for years the Indian government either turned a blind eye to the practice or denied that it no longer existed. Stereotyping and also abuse of generally black people is rampant in many Indian societies because of its caste history, and racism against blacks in India is as prevalent and as covert as anywhere else on earth. So, but at the end of the day, what we want to say is that the shocking behavior of other races towards black people is all over the earth. In Brazil, the shocking number of killings of young black Brazilians received new reports that in South America, almost across all of Southern America, there's destruction and dehumanization of people of color or dominant or melanin dominant human beings. Think about that and consider that seriously. In Europe, even great players, soccer players, celebrities are abused. They are monkey chants done by others. Yes, racism is a problem, but it is not the major problem. Wealth disparities, education, health, political failure, and even racism, these are only components of the biggest elephant in the room. What is that biggest elephant that we are going to identify today? As we do that, we want to ask, what is the number one problem faced by black people on earth today? The problem is the melanin dominant human himself or herself. You are the problem if you are melanin dominant. But how? We will describe this quickly and show something here that we showed in one of our old videos. Is this grooved African sphere? See this one, this grooved one? See, this has caused a lot of debate, but silent debate and covert debate among the scientists and the researchers. What do you think? Do you think these are natural lines or not natural lines? These metallic spheres were dug up in Southern Africa, in South Africa, and they have got 3 parallel grooves around the equator. This photo is courtesy of Rolf Marx. The spheres were found in a Precambrian mineral deposit, which is about 3 billion years old. And what we are saying here at Hamiti Hebrew Ethics Marifado Chem is that human beings made these lines. Despite controversies and denials, we are saying African or melanin dominant humans made these lines 3 billion years ago. Therefore, we were here on earth at least 3 billion years ago. Earth years. That's what we are talking. That's what we are saying. That is our standard of argument. Therefore, because of that, we say we are the oldest race. Therefore, we are likely to behave like old people today, lacking wisdom or having a lot of wisdom. We can never be in two places, either awake or asleep as a black person. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're educated, brilliant, smart black people following Islam, following Judaism, following Christianity, knowing full well that these are the religions that destroys and that do not like black people, that teaches black people to dislike themselves, and it calls you the case of Ham. Some they say Hamites and go on with the Hamitic theory like it is the truth. So we are in a position and a situation of offering the solution. But let us point out the likely problems that because of our genes, because we are an old race, we will suffer things like memory loss that disrupts daily life. That's what I've just said and explained. That you find a very brilliant, scientific, black-minded person, a black melanin dominant human, following a religion that they know called them a slave and has not even apologized. Challenges in planning or solving problems, there you are. Difficulty completing familiar tasks at home or at work or at leisure. Confusion with time or space. Exactly. So when we say 3 billion years ago we were on the earth, a lot of our melanin dominant brothers and sisters will come and say that's a lie. So what is that? That is proof for us that they have trouble with time and the place, therefore proving again that they are behaving like an old man. Yes, correct. Trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. Correct. They can see the images in ancient Hamit. They can see the images in ancient Zimbabwe, in West Africa, Mohenjo-Daro. They can see pyramids all over the earth, and they refuse to accept that we did that our ancestors did that. We can show them the balls that we have shown with 3 clear, straightforward lines around the equator, and they say no, it's natural. And we can say this is Precambrian 3 billion plus years ago. They say no, it can't be, because their mind is locked by the biblical timeline, by the Quranic timeline, by the timeline that they are given by scientists, that human beings started to walk the earth and came out of Africa 200,000 years ago, which is not a fact. We are saying 3 billion years ago we were walking the earth already. New problems with words in speaking or writing. Okay, misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. Yes, decreased or poor judgment. Well, we have said that. Withdraw from work or social activities, or maybe that might not be the one. That might be the opposite, that we like music, we like to dance, we don't like really to play. Changes in mood and personality. Correct, we are engineered to do that. So this life we are talking about, renewal of your life, involves this business diagram, very important diagram, life cycle of a business or a product or anything that comes into the market. We are using it to transpose and put it on top of our old genes that we began almost 3 billion years ago. We went through rapid development, we matured, and we started to decline and ignored the principles that we had, which gave us that ultimate growth. The proof is what we have shown: the pyramids, the images, the introduction of writing, philosophy. We have already spoken about that. And then we are into the decline phase and almost becoming extinct. We read the Packager principle, how we have disappeared from many places on the earth. But you can go through a rebirth and you can renew and start this cycle many times over. If you want to understand how you can go through a rebirth, not a Christian one, not a Muslim one, not a Hebrew Israelite one, but your own actual one, and many other liberating subjects, enroll and get your training today in our running exclusive program entitled Bantu Foundation Studies. Send an email to join@maarifado.com. Use the code BF12 entry. Meet you inside. Yours for now, this preacher Rabbi LM Dumizulu, saying Salani Kahle, we are the oldest and we can solve the biggest problems by knowing who we are. Siabonga, Tatenda, thank you.